The words were short, measured, and delivered without drama, yet they landed like a quiet explosion. Sam Heughan did not raise his voice or hint at emotion, but his final statement carried a weight that years of rumors never could. In a single moment, something that fans had debated, defended, and romanticized for a long time suddenly felt finished. Not paused, not denied, but unmistakably over. For years, romance rumors followed Sam wherever he went. They lived in comment sections, fan forums, blurred paparazzi photos, and carefully dissected interviews. Every smile, every absence, every public appearance was treated like a clue in an unfinished love story. The longer Sam stayed silent, the louder the speculation grew, until the rumors became a parallel narrative running alongside his career. What made the situation unusual was not the gossip itself, but how persistent it became. Unlike fleeting tabloid stories, these rumors refused to fade, resurfacing year after year with renewed confidence. Fans convinced themselves they were protecting something private, while media outlets framed the silence as confirmation. In reality, the lack of denial created a vacuum that imagination eagerly filled. Publicly, Sam maintained a careful balance. He spoke passionately about his work, his charities, and his love for storytelling, but remained guarded when questions drifted toward his personal life. That restraint was often interpreted as mystery, even romance, rather than what it likely was, a boundary. Over time, that boundary became blurred by constant projection. There were moments when the speculation seemed almost affectionate. Fans spoke of destiny, of chemistry that transcended the screen, of a connection too special to name. But admiration slowly turned into expectation, and expectation into entitlement. The story stopped being about Sam as a person and became about a fantasy others felt invested in preserving. Behind the scenes, the pressure quietly mounted. Being repeatedly linked to a narrative you never confirmed places you in an impossible position. Deny it, and risk disappointing those who believe. Stay silent, and watch the story grow beyond your control. For years, Sam chose the second option, perhaps hoping the noise would eventually fade on its own. Instead, it followed him into interviews, premieres, and even unrelated projects. Journalists asked questions framed as assumptions, not inquiries. Headlines implied conclusions that had never been stated. Slowly, the line between what Sam had said and what people believed he meant completely disappeared. That context is what made his final statement feel so definitive. There was no room left for interpretation, no carefully crafted ambiguity. The words were clear, not emotional, but resolute, signaling an end rather than an invitation to further analysis. It was the kind of clarity that only arrives when silence no longer serves its purpose. For many fans, the reaction was immediate and visceral. Some felt heartbreak, as if losing something personal. Others expressed disbelief, convinced there had to be more beneath the surface. A smaller group welcomed the honesty, recognizing it as a necessary step toward reclaiming reality from fiction. What stood out most was what Sam did not say. He did not dismiss anyone's feelings, nor did he criticize the years of speculation. He simply drew a line, calmly and without apology. In doing so, he shifted the narrative away from romance and back toward personal autonomy. This moment reframed everything that came before it. The glances, the silences, the so-called hints now looked different when viewed through the lens of closure. What once felt like an unfinished chapter suddenly read like a story that had been misread from the beginning. As the news settled, one truth became increasingly clear. The rumors were sustained not by evidence, but by hope, repetition, and collective imagination. Sam's final statement did not end a relationship, it ended a projection. And for the first time in a long while, the conversation was no longer about what fans wanted to believe, but about what he chose to say. Yet even as the words echoed across social media, an uneasy question remained. If this is truly the end of the story fans thought they were following, what does it reveal about the cost of staying silent for too long? And what happens next, now that the fantasy has finally been laid to rest? What followed his statement was not silence, but reflection. Once the initial shock faded, many began to notice how deliberate his words had been, not defensive, not emotional, but unmistakably final. Sam Heughan did not leave room for reinterpretation, and that alone marked a turning point. It felt less like a reaction to gossip and more like a conscious decision to reclaim control over a narrative that no longer belonged to him. For a long time, Sam's personal life had been treated as communal property. Fans debated it as if it were an ongoing series, with theories, evidence, and emotional investment that grew stronger over time. In that environment, stepping in to correct the story meant disappointing people who believed they were rooting for love. His final words suggested he understood that cost and accepted it anyway. What many missed at first was the timing. Sam did not speak when the rumors were at their loudest, nor when they were easiest to dismiss. He chose a moment when the speculation had become cyclical, endlessly repeating itself without adding anything new. That choice implied exhaustion, not anger, and a recognition that silence had stopped being protective. There is a quiet weight that comes with being written into a story you never agreed to tell. Over the years, Sam's career achievements were often overshadowed by questions he had never publicly invited. Interviews drifted toward implication rather than fact, and his work was filtered through the lens of imagined romance. Ending that cycle required clarity, not confrontation. In his statement, there was no attempt to shame fans or correct the past in detail. He did not explain himself, justify his choices, or reveal private truths. Instead, he drew a boundary and trusted that it would be enough. That restraint was perhaps the most revealing part, signaling confidence rather than defensiveness. The reaction among fans revealed how deeply the narrative had embedded itself. Some expressed sadness, others frustration, and a few insisted the truth was still being hidden. Yet beneath those responses was a shared realization that the story they followed was no longer supported by reality. The fantasy had reached its natural end. This moment also highlighted a broader issue within celebrity culture. When admiration turns into ownership, personal boundaries are often the first casualty. Sam's experience is not unique, but his decision to address it directly stands out. It suggests a shift toward clearer lines between public image and private life, even when those lines disappoint. In the days after his statement, conversations slowly changed tone. Media outlets adjusted their language, fans redirected their focus, and the rumor cycle lost momentum. Without ambiguity to fuel it, the story simply could not sustain itself. What remained was a person choosing honesty over convenience. For Sam, this was not about denying love or rewriting history. It was about ending speculation that had outlived its relevance. His words did not erase the past, but they reframed it, reminding audiences that assumptions, no matter how widely shared, are not truths. As the dust settles, one thing becomes clear. This was not a dramatic ending, but a mature one. Sam Heughan did not close the door with force, he closed it with intention. And in doing so, he left behind a lesson that extends far beyond a single rumor. Sometimes, the most powerful statement is simply saying enough. In the days after his statement, conversations slowly changed tone. Media outlets adjusted their language, fans redirected their focus, and the rumor cycle lost momentum. Without ambiguity to fuel it, the story simply could not sustain itself. What remained was a person choosing honesty over convenience. His words did not erase the past, but they reframed it, reminding audiences that assumptions, no matter how widely shared, are not truths.